I'm rolling there, and
got it?
Yep.
iPod collector. That's cool.
All right, so go ahead and just stand here, Ryan, and ask him some questions. Right, this right here.
So, if you can give us your name for the camera and just tell us maybe some of your more prominent work in the film industry.
Okay, cool. My name is Randy Martinez, and I am an illustrator. I've done a lot of artwork for Lucasfilm, Marvel, Topps Trading Cards. I've been doing Star Wars artwork for 16 years with Lucasfilm, starting in 1999. It's been a great time. I love Star Wars, so this is hardly like work. I almost feel guilty about it.
So it's an interesting dynamic with Star Wars, which started out as a film and then kind of transcended into more of comic books and literature and things like that. When did you get started with doing Lucasfilm work?
1999 was my first job doing artwork for Star Wars Kids magazine. It was when Episode 1 came out, they started doing a lot of different merchandise and different things for the movie, which created a lot of jobs for artists like me, and I got a really awesome opportunity to do that, and I took it, and that blossomed into doing Star Wars artwork for trading cards, for posters, books, and my artwork's been on just about everything that they make Star Wars products out of.
What do you think of the fan base? I know back in maybe around Return of the Jedi, if you were kind of seen going to the theater, it was known as nerd was known as more of a negative thing. But now it seems like Star Wars is just booming. It's a part of pop culture now. Would you say that maybe the saturation of it in general has just kind of bled through and just turned nerd into more of a positive thing now?
Maybe a little bit. I think it's bigger than Star Wars. I think that because of the internet, and I think because of computers in general. Even back in those days, if you were into computers, you were like the biggest nerd. You know. So now, because more and more people, we all have computers now. We all have smartphones. It gives everybody access to one another, which also helps give ideas across. And so, likewise, a lot of those nerdy things that computer geeks were into, that were also into Star Wars and Star Trek, things like that. Now, more and more people, I think, are getting involved with comic books, Star Wars, and it's become more of a common language between people.
So you think more it's been an evolution of understanding of the franchise as a whole that's maybe had a positive influence, and it was more people's I guess ignorance about the series or just not knowing about the series that might have just created more of a negative trope, I guess.
Well, I think it was back in the 80s, you know, it wasn't so much Star Wars as it was science fiction.
Right.
But I think Star Wars fans back then were a lot different than they are now. And Star Wars fans back then were people who just liked good movies and liked going out to have fun. People went and saw it 50 times. That was maybe a little nerdy, you know, but I was one of those people. But I think Star Wars is mythology, especially the original trilogy, and I think that's what really connected with people. So people, I don't think were considered as big a nerds back then for Star Wars, because you might go see Clash of the Titans, or you might even see Rocky's mythology, you know, and that was the era that came out of. So I think now the fan base is based so much on collectibles and things like that. It's very different, and it's been very interesting as an artist to see that evolution happen.
Would you say that maybe the boom of CGI has maybe given you more work, since a lot of practical effects were used in the original trilogy, and now we see a lot more CGI, a lot more digital art and imagery? Do you think that maybe is something that has helped the industry as a whole for artists like yourself?
Well, it's obviously created a lot of jobs for people in the industry. I know a lot of people who do digital art and digital effects in the movies, and so that's been great. Also for illustration, digital tools that we use, I use them a little bit when I do color. I try to do everything by hand as much as I can. I'm older, so I was taught by some of the older guys, and I really like doing that kind of art. But because of the speed of product that comes out, I've had to adjust my tools a little bit and use the computer. But I don't think for me, it hasn't affected the way that I create art from its start. But I know a lot of artists who have, and they do some wonderful things.
Speaking of the speed and how frequently product is now being turned over relative to the past, do you think there's going to be any type of inundation effect where eventually there will be so much coming out so back to back that people will start to retract from it and move towards a different medium?
I think so.
Can you look at him and answer?
Okay. I think so. I think that it happens with everything. I think it's a pendulum, like anything else. I've actually seen it in the industry where back in the early 90s, everything was starting to be computerized because it was new and it was exciting. And probably the last 10 years, there's been more traditional art, more drawing, more painting that has been very popular. But also the software has changed to support that, so that artists can paint more and do more things that they normally do traditionally. And I think it's exciting time as an artist to be able to do both at the same time.
How would you say characters in general? I know they've gone more towards like darker theme when it comes to comic books, when it comes to film, a lot of other things. Maybe something that started out really wholesome, like Star Wars. Do you think they've still captured that wholesome essence, like in your drawings, for instance? Like, do you think that you still draw them the same way as you did back in the 90s?
Oh, well, I would almost kind of disagree with you in terms of Star Wars being on that wholesome level, because I think Star Wars, the original ones, were very deep, and they're a lot deeper than a lot of the new fans understand, because they didn't grow up in the 70s and the 80s. If you took a time warp back in time, in the late 70s, we were dealing in the nation very much with the post-Vietnam, and we got a lot of movies like The Godfather and The Deer Hunter, and these movies that were really depressing, but they were things that we had to deal with through film and art. About what are we going to do? We all just feel so bad about this. Well, Star Wars came along at a time when people just kind of got tired of feeling like that. And so when it hit, and it was the little guy versus the big guy, and the little guy wins, it's what everybody wanted to see. And if you notice, after that, Rocky comes out, little guy beating the big guy. Superman comes out, you have the hero. You know, everybody can be saved by the hero, and all of this is post-traumatic from Vietnam. Now, why I say it's not wholesome is because if you strip away the face value of what Star Wars is, it's actually a very hard commentary on what we just went through with Vietnam. And if you want to look at the Death Star as the big government, you know, or the Ewoks as the Viet Cong, you know, and things like, there's a lot of themes going on there that were very dark and very interesting. And for a lot of fans, younger fans, I start talking to them about this, and they have no idea what I'm talking about. But when you start talking about the prequels, which, in my opinion, is based very much again on our current events, and whatever your opinions are politically, what was going on with Iraq and George Bush in office I can't help but think that's a direct comparison to Emperor Palpatine and what was going on there. So again, those dark themes, I think, are masked in science fiction and the fun, but the darkness is there because it's reflecting what's going on in our life. And there's a lot of dark things going on nowadays. So I'm looking forward to The Force Awakens. I know J.J. Abrams is a great filmmaker, and he's studied all the great filmmakers like Francis Ford Coppola, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, and he's very much into putting those dark themes like in Lost, and things like that, and even what was the one with the camera Cloverfield? There's a lot of stuff going on underneath there, so I really hope new fans can appreciate what's going on in the undertones with the darkness, like you're saying, because there's a lot of that going on.
You think fans today, with so much presented to them through so many outlets like the internet, for instance, do you think that maybe they're spoiled where they don't really have the appreciation and understanding maybe that they had back then?
I think so. I think there's every great thing that we have technologically has a downside to it, and I think because everything's so easily accessible, and you have news channels that take advantage that people don't really take the time to fact check, so they just make up things and put it out there, and people believe that stuff. But I think it's making a younger generation not self-responsible for what they put in their heads and what they believe. So that's why I really hope through the art, and that's why it's always kind of been, is that the art kind of is a catalyst for the people to maybe start thinking on a different level, in a different way, to maybe see past a lot of the people who are out there that are lying to you, trying to tell you how things really are. And that's what I hope for, and that art can help reverse some of those tendencies, like you're speaking of, to be lazy.
And closing on this, I got to ask, who was probably your biggest inspiration for getting into art?
Getting into art, well, first I would have to say my parents. Both my parents were artists. I've been around art all my life because of that, so it's not so much a job, it's what I do. So I would easily say they were my biggest influences, but outside of them, I would say the artists of Mad Magazine. I love Mad Magazine. I've always loved Mad Magazine. Mort Drucker and Jack Davis, Sergio Aragonés, Al Jaffe, all of these guys were artists that I looked up to, that I wanted to be. And when I first started doing Star Wars art, I was doing cartoons and caricatures. So I grew up doing that, and it's eventually I was able to start showing my chops and other things that I do with painting and drawing more realistic looking illustrations. So it's interesting how my career is kind of reversed, but now I'm also starting to do some more humorous stuff again, which is great.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
That's it.
Hey, do you think we can get? Would it be okay to do like a quick pan of your art?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Want to do that?
I do.